Distinguished colleagues, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to discuss a topic of such importance with esteemed professionals such as yourselves: Gen Z engagement in the workplace, reframing manager relations with Gen Z employees. And I'm hoping that together we can bring forth a new perspective and shed light for the future generations. So the question is, why are employers finding older workers preferable to younger workers? A potential answer to Gen Z employee disengagement in the workplace is the main issue here, and my research considers exactly that: the impact of intergenerational tensions on Gen Z employee engagement. Now, employee engagement is a source of trouble for companies, with 75% of global employees being actively disengaged at work. The global consequences of employee engagement equate to approximately 7 trillion in lost productivity and an overall fragmented employee welfare. This issue is especially relevant in the existing work environment, in which managers may need to engage 4 generations of employees: boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z, the youngest generational group entering the workforce. Yet Gen Z are the least engaged generational group within their work and most prone to stress and to burnout. The integration of Gen Z employees within companies appears to be particularly problematic. Employers are finding older workers preferable to younger workers. And younger generations, they are faced with disdain by older ones. Managers indeed rate Gen Z employee engagement as a priority, but most don't know how to actually engage these Gen Z employees. Generational analysis is an important research tool used around the world. Now, the terminology of generations has multiple meanings in the literature: kinship descent, cohort, life stage, and historical period. And while there is some animosity in between theorists regarding to the terminology that describes generational cohorts, most research follows the US classification of Pew Research Center. So boomers are born in between 1946 and 1964. Gen X are born in between 1965 and 1980. Millennials are born in between 1981 and 1996. And Gen Z are born after 1997. The fundamentally different generational experiences produce different preferences about work. Work values, for instance, are more influenced by generational differences than by maturation stages. Boomers, you see, they are principally motivated by money and pressured to care for both aging parents and for their own children. Their self-worth is tied to their work, and even though they act disappointed in the workplace environment, they in fact have the highest engagement levels and the highest happiness levels at work across generations. Gen X experience tradition decline, rapid change, family downsizing. They avoid long-term commitments to jobs and think maintaining marketability is key to their success. And then there's Gen Y. They view jobs as occupations rather than professions because they were brought up in the child-centric era and have adopted a certain moral relativism. But what about Gen Z employees? Researchers have been attributing the lack of information about Gen Z employees to the fact that they have not fully penetrated the job market. Twain remarks that Gen Z are physically safer, but emotionally, they are so much more fragile. This is because they have a tendency to connect virtually and not in person. They have a tendency to also curate their social image through social media. They attempt to eschew conflict, and they seek immediate validation. One thing is for sure, Gen Z seem to be underprepared for work roles. Recognizing this literature gap, the study is based on 2 research questions. What are the behaviors and engagement dimensions of Gen Z employees? And what are the intergenerational workplace dynamics that foster intergenerational conflict which influences Gen Z disengagement? The study addresses the 2 interrelated issues using qualitative data originated from semi-structured interviews. The qualitative research is considered to be the first to extract data from the 4 generational groups and to compare perceptions from Gen Z employees and their boomer managers. It thus incorporates the higher and the lower levels of analysis, or the micro and the meso. The field component was phenomenological by way of grounded theory. The non-random research sample consisted of 75 participants. This total included 30 Gen Z employees and 45 managers from 42 companies ranging across industries. Regarding research question 1, the findings are coherent with the existing literature, according to which the younger generations desire work-life balance and extrinsic rewards, ideally in the form of pay and generous praise. Surprisingly, the need for recognition is as important as financial compensation. In terms of leisure, work-life balance is essential. While Gen Z do not explicitly express a fear of burnout, they indicate the need for a lack of multitasking, a despise towards pressure, and they require for their rhythm to be understood. Adding to the existing literature, the study indicate that the core engagement dimensions of Gen Z employees are extrinsic rewards, social rewards, leisure rewards, empowerment, and intrinsic rewards. Now, in the workplace, Gen Z desire flexible work practices, rewards and recognition, compensation and benefits, company volunteering, and feedback. Gen Z are driven by their development, so if their job is predominantly designed on transactional work, they will most likely leave that job. Findings also indicate that Gen Z desire and expect fast rewards. Nevertheless, their older managers desire consistent effort over an amount of time. Now, because Gen Z, then goal attainment is expedient, they become easily disillusioned by the realities of the workplace, and they disengage. The workplace dilemma to overcome for Gen Z employees is that of commitment versus attainment. When the dilemma is not resolved, Gen Z perpetuate in a job switching loop. Gen Z switch jobs in their attempt to obtain faster results at a different organization. And when results are not obtained at the desired pace, Gen Z employees switch jobs once more. Making a notable addition to the literature, the findings show that Gen Z employees perceive the workplace as oppressive and organized to benefit solely the older generational groups and not young people. Pertaining to research question 2, Gen Z engagement is negatively impacted by intergenerational conflict between them and their older managers. The study disputes previous ideas according to which intergenerational differences are caused by different values and preferences. These of course exist, but they are not the core conflict. The core conflict between Gen Z and their managers is one over advancement. Older managers who are responsible for training Gen Z employees prefer to maintain Gen Z helpless to protect their positions. Now, this dynamic occurs in 2 main ways. They either do not educate Gen Z or oppose technologization. And this is because technologization would position Gen Z at an advantage, because of course, Gen Z are technological natives. Findings of the study also indicate that older managers experience transference from the familial setting and view Gen Z as their own children. At the level of the Gen Z employee, when treated like children, their inferiority complex becomes activated. Meanwhile, older managers experience a spillover of the Ericksonian dilemma of integrity versus despair in the workplace. Now, according to the stage theory, when the boomer faces this existential identity crisis, the virtue that should be culminated ought to be wisdom. The introduction of younger generational groups in the workplace catalyzed boomers to navigate an unframed crisis. Boomers experience a dilemma about their role, which creates in turn a climate of oppression. Crucially, as illustrated in the figure, this study shows that the framing of organizational retention impacts Gen Z employee engagement. Boomers seem to think that their retention within companies is based on their longevity and acquired knowledge. The resulting behavior is that they withhold information from the Gen Z employees. In doing so, they disengage Gen Z. The reframed conceptualization of retention based on knowledge sharing may result in behavioral change and ultimately engage Gen Z. Overall, the study furthers the literature on theories of employee engagement and generational theories by examining the understudied sample of Gen Z employees. Of course, generational groups evolve and further research on intergenerational dynamics at work is necessary. Longitudinal cohort studies could further examine variations in behaviors and employment needs of Gen Z. Under the promise of organizational knowledge sharing, employees, people at all levels, tap into their most important roles of ensuring the perpetuation of professions and of professionals, possible through the reframing of intergenerational collaborations.